Story 1, Finding a Job. Fear of losing your current job. Cost of living. Story 2, I have no health insurance for the first time in my life. It is scary. Story 3, Finding a job is difficult. Many employers say they are hiring, but few actually make offers. Their requirements are completely unrealistic. No one with decades of experience is likely to choose to work at Jersey Mike's. Story 4, I am one paycheck away from homelessness and terrified that my health issues will worsen because I do not have access to medical care. I guess dying young may be a better outcome than the uncertainty of aging in this country. Story 5, You can lose your job without warning, with no paid notice period to look for other work. You can be thrown out of a workplace you have been at for years, left with only your belongings, and this can cause you to lose access to proper health care because of insurance. Story 6, The economy feels like the period before the French Revolution. The rich keep getting richer and flaunt it. Double standards are getting worse. The poor are suffering, and the middle class is being destroyed. Employers perpetuate this system. People are angry. I hope more people join them. Story 7, We are no longer pulled together by shared values and experiences like we were as late as the mid-2000s. Television shows that the collective watched allowed us to agree on a shared set of cultural values, and now everyone watches different things because of streaming. As a result, we are living in completely different realities, so it is very difficult to agree even on what is real, let alone on the cause of a problem or the correct next step to solve it. Many of us were never taught basic fact-checking skills, so we are being propagandized on a large scale. This happens across the political spectrum. The algorithms encourage it, and even people who know how to fact-check sometimes get lazy and share misinformation. People are too attached to their egos to admit when they have accidentally shared propaganda, so even when they learn the truth, they usually do not help the community by correcting the information. Many people have monetized their Facebook accounts, and with little security, they have unknowingly put their friends, themselves, and their followers at risk from unknown people who try to sow division or scam their contact lists. Any engagement generates revenue, and people often prioritize making money over the bigger picture. The wealth divide is stoking all of this. Citizens United should be overturned. We need ranked choice voting to break the two-party system. This will create a dynamic where politicians must address actual issues rather than just point fingers at the other side. Wages need to start matching inflation. We need more millennials in positions of power. We have innovation ideas, we have solved many problems, and we are more connected to what each generation wants and needs than other generations. Men need to start holding other men accountable. We need more unions and stronger protections for unions. As odd as it may sound, we need common cultural experiences and media again. Without media that connects us, we cannot agree on our values. Shared media allowed people to feel included and part of something. In the 1990s and early 2000s, shared music, movies, and television helped build a more cohesive value system. Good behavior and hard work are no longer consistently rewarded, so people are less incentivized to be decent or to work hard. Bad behavior and exploiting others have been incentivized, so even if you try to be good, you are often punished while being tempted to turn to the dark side. We need insurance companies out of healthcare. We urgently need affordable trauma resources. People are becoming more traumatized and are traumatizing others as they go through life, and mental health care is so inaccessible that trauma is spreading. People need to feel that it is actually possible to succeed again. If they take the right steps and work hard, there must be a clear path to success. Many people who followed conventional paths still feel hopeless because they are being left behind. We need to restore belief that success is possible. Story 8. I am quite worried about changes to healthcare because I have several pre-existing conditions. Story 9. Billionaires in the less than 1% are controlling and ruining everyone else's lives, along with the idiots who idolize them. Story 10. Healthcare is the #1 reason people go broke. Story 11. Concerns vary by life stage. People over 60 worry about the stability of Social Security, Medicare, and healthcare costs. Those over 40 focus on maximizing retirement investments and paying for their children's college. People in their mid-20s to late 30s are concerned about housing, childcare, and health insurance. Everyone is concerned about the cost of utilities and food. Story 12. Being able to live and pay bills is becoming increasingly difficult. We are reaching a point where basic housing and food absorb all of our income. If this is not resolved within a few years, heads will roll. American capitalism is propped up as long as the general population can still afford small comforts. As soon as that disappears, things will crumble. Story 13. Economy. Inflation has risen by about 30 to 50% since the coronavirus disease 2019, and wages have not kept up. Most people are roughly 20% poorer than 5 years ago. Housing, groceries, and electricity are more expensive. Tariffs are creating havoc across the economy, affecting groceries and other retail items. Those who are supposed to represent us offer no solutions. There is no end in sight, and I anticipate things will get worse. The beatings will continue until morale improves. Additionally, I think the healthcare market will implode over the next few years. As premiums rise, fewer healthy young people will obtain health insurance, which will raise premiums further and lead to a death spiral. If you think premium increases are high this year, wait until next year. That is when the real problems will begin. America is about to be really great again. Story 14. Affordability. Homes, vehicles, property insurance, health insurance, groceries, and energy have all become much more expensive. There are many other issues unrelated to affordability, but this one probably takes the cake. Story 15. I need health insurance. I have many pre-existing conditions. Story 16. Our wealth has been transferred entirely to the elite, and our future is bleak. Story 17. Economy, housing, and the job market are concerning. There is a widespread deterioration in product and service quality, including shrinkflation and companies trying to extract more money from consumers. For example, YouTube runs ads and requires a premium subscription to be reasonably usable. Politics and retirement are also sources of worry. The 2020s are difficult. Story 18. It all boils down to money. The top 5 responses on this post so far are: losing your job without warning, because a job is how you make money; getting a job because no one is actually hiring; waiting to read a highly anticipated obituary. It may not be directly about money, but it is related. Health insurance. That is a worry because we must pay for it ourselves and it is expensive. Being able to afford basic living expenses and pay bills. Story 19. Affordability of everything for most people. For me, it is always my mental health. Story 20. For me, it is the decay in accountability and ethics displayed in American leadership across a wide spectrum: business, politics, ecumenical, legal, sports, military, and law enforcement. The principles leaders follow to govern themselves set the cultural tone for the people they serve, and we see far too many examples of poor, corrupt, and dishonorable leadership in this country today. If those in positions of relative power will not do what is right, our country will continue to decline, and so will the health and wealth of Americans. Story 21. They cannot afford anything and may lose their home, livelihoods, and savings at any moment. Story 22. The fear of calling an ambulance or of going to the emergency room. Story 23. Affordability. Many American swing voters were led to believe Trump would lower the price of eggs. But prices have risen since last year. Even with recent market shifts, it takes months for prices to adjust. Also, if a large grocery chain charges $9 for eggs and can buy them at a lower cost, do you really think the chain will reduce the price? No. Story 24. We live in a rigged system where we were promised freedom and opportunity, but in reality we are just producers and consumers whose whole existence serves only to benefit the wealthiest 0.01%. Story 25. Here is some distraction. Pop. Story 26. This may not seem like a big concern, but it is. All baby boomers are reaching retirement age, so elderly care will be needed for many people. My parents are in their 60s and look great, but I have noticed cognitive decline, especially in my father over the last year. He is not terrible, but he seemed to age overnight. Right now, I cannot begin to save for retirement, let alone care for them when they cannot care for themselves. That does not include my wife's family. She has a sibling with special needs. I know it is down the road, but many people are in the same situation. Story 27. Trump and his cohorts are tearing the country apart and stealing every last dime. Story 28. Losing what is left of democracy and the ability to hold free and fair elections should supersede everything else. This issue is not being mentioned often enough. Story 29. How am I supposed to help and guide my 17-year-old to a better future? Story 30. Most means the largest number of people? If so, then I cannot have a major financial emergency or I am screwed. Story 31. I believe the president is unfit for office, and everything is extremely expensive. The American dream is dead. Story 32. That the children cannot read, write, think critically, or solve problems. Story 33. We need jobs, higher personal income, and relief from the cost of just existing. I have nothing against China or Iran. Maybe we should get off a war footing. Story 34. All labor is forcibly coerced under the threat of criminalized homelessness and starvation. Story 35. An authoritarian regime is gaining strength, and the insane cost of basic healthcare. Story 36. Our government is actively hostile to its people. Every concern anyone in this thread has is either a direct result of, or is exacerbated by, this. Worried about losing your job? The government is dismantling every safety net you might have had access to. Need healthcare? Affordable healthcare is public enemy number one to these fascists. Have brown skin? They have funded a paramilitary domestic terrorist cell specifically to harm you. I know literally Hitler is a meme at this point, but this administration is competing with his legacy in a very literal sense. Story 37. Skyrocketing healthcare premiums and costs, inaccessible medical services, and a complete lack of transparency. This is a disaster that has dragged the country down for decades. Story 38. Affording food that isn't ramen is peak American concern right now. Story 39. Fascism, racism, bigotry, oppression, and dehumanization of minorities. Anything remotely related to immigration and customs enforcement. The rollback of women's rights. The crushing weight of the ultra-rich on everyone below. The terror of not being able to afford a roof over your head or life-saving treatment. The ever-increasing surveillance state. The disregard for the rights of workers. The celebration of hatred. The idolization of lies. What is happening is abhorrent, and it feels like the only people with power are the ones with a boot on our necks. I always wondered what it felt like to be an average citizen in a country as it devolved into a dystopian reality. Now I know. It feels like overwhelming depression, existential dread, and utter powerlessness. Story 40. Probably the general uncertainty about the future. Jobs, cost of living, and healthcare. It all adds up and makes people feel uneasy. Story 41. I am mostly worried about my kids' future. I am not sure what is going to happen with the job market, so I am frantically trying to leave them a large enough nest egg that they will have some kind of cushion. Story 42. How the middle class is getting absolutely gutted by automation, artificial intelligence, and non-existent labor protections. Story 43. Most people are becoming homeless. Many will be swept into another Alcatraz-like situation. Food is unaffordable, and people are living under a lie as corporations take control and govern us. We are allowing pedophiles and defenders to run free. They are not being punished enough. Their wages should be garnished and returned to the public through a stimulus payment. Story 44. The growing parallels between the United States in 2025 and Germany in 1933. Story 45. It is the fact that a twice-impeached suspected pedophile and con man with dozens of felonies, who incited an embarrassing riot at the Capitol and destroyed trust and credibility in our voting system, can win the presidency again, openly commit crimes such as accepting bribes and running businesses hawking fucking merchandise to the public. And no one is going to stop him. You only see this in third world countries, and now it has happened in the United States. The worst part is he opened the door for others to step in and run rampant in office with zero pushback or accountability, because Trump wrote the playbook. We are fucked. Story 46. What if a medical disaster hits me? I have insurance, but it won't cover anything and I have no savings left. My lease is coming up, and I'm scared my apartment complex will raise my rent by hundreds of dollars and I will be homeless. How am I going to afford Christmas when I can barely afford groceries? Even though I make decent money, why are there Nazis everywhere? What is happening? I just can't believe that at 43 this is where I am in life. All I ever wanted was a normal-sized home, a couple of children, and maybe a vacation once a year. Instead I have miscarriages, moving between apartments, unsupportive partners, no vacation in over 10 years, and my parents have poor health. I'm scared they will leave me in this situation. What am I supposed to do without them? I hate this entire planet. Story 47. A mentally unstable dictator controls the government and corruption is deeply ingrained at a core level. Yet people still worship him like the second coming. Story 48. That Trump is still on the planet. Along with Bezos, Zuckerberg, Soros, Thiel, Musk, and other multi-billionaires and aspiring trillionaires, I know I missed a bunch, you can fill in the rest in the comments. Basically, everyone with more than $1 billion is a waste of oxygen. Kindly have them step away from public life. Story 49. The corruption of conservative politicians, media, and their billionaire owners underlies many of our problems. Story 50. The fascist in the White House and all of his enablers. The Supreme Court, which gave him absolute immunity for official acts while in office. Congress, which is supposed to represent the people but is instead protecting a convicted sex offender and a 34-time felon. Aside from all that, probably the cost of living. Story 51. The idiot in the White House and his boy toy at the Defense Department are two low-level creeps with dangerous toys. Story 52. For me personally, everything. With the introduction of the new 50-year mortgage, no one will ever truly own their homes. Interest and death will see to that. Health insurance will be cut for many, and premiums will triple. The number of unemployed now exceeds available jobs. Even working 2 full-time jobs, 40 hours each at double the minimum wage, people can barely afford a studio apartment, assuming they can meet high deposits, application fees, and the required credit score. The used car market is ruined by influencers who buy cars, clean them, claim they are restored, and flip them for 3 times book value. Corporations and Airbnb are buying houses and doing the same, flipping them for more than twice their value or renting them for $2,500 a month. The tariffs imposed by our trader-in-chief have ruined beef, coffee, and vegetables and damaged relations with other countries. Inflation has already happened, and these corporations will not lower prices even if the tariffs are cut. The damage is done. Grocery prices will stay high because they know we are willing to pay. So next time someone says they voted for Trump or the Republican Party, thank them for killing the economy. Story 53. Stability. Financially and emotionally, it is a lot right now. Even successful people are suffering in many ways and are facing new realities and hardships compared with previous years. Story 54. As an outsider looking in and scrolling for ages without finding it, I wonder about your president and the entire cabinet that goes with them. It feels like everyone I speak to about America is both laughing at you and mourning with you. Story 55. How am I going to afford the next trip to the grocery store to feed my wife and daughter? Story 56. Losing everything that people fought so hard to achieve, from the founding fathers to the present day. Story 57. Let me count the ways, but I'll start with the economy. 1. Wealth disparity, the likes of which the country has never seen. 2. Technological innovation that will disenfranchise people from the power of their labor and thus reduce their influence over those in power. 3. The wholesale shuttering of the American intellectual and innovation engine. Some Americans may not like immigrants, but sending them away will have an irreversible negative impact on the engine of the American economy, and that intellectual power lost from the United States will be gained by its economic rivals. 4. Unreliable, untested, and unwise manipulation and interference with the Federal Reserve and basic economic data, such as labor statistics. All business in the United States relies on accurate economic data and careful management of the nation's economic levers by the Federal Reserve. Mess with that, and it is like all global positioning system satellites going dark. 5. War and the economic toll it will bring against the backdrop of everything noted above. No war will repair the American economy. Any war will likely erode it further. For example, no society benefits from Russia's war on Ukraine. Nearly every society is negatively affected, especially Russia. Only a few very wealthy people profit from such wars, often at the cost of human lives. The economy is number one, but there are about 50 other major threats right behind it, and all of those will not just impact the United States. They will affect everyone, no matter where they live, what they believe, or how they live. The world is in peril, and the only way out is the exact opposite of the direction it is headed. How do we redirect the ship? It begins with each of us changing our attitudes and behaviors, especially in how we treat one another. Hate, anger, and greed at the top will destroy the world. Care, forgiveness, and charity toward the people around us, whoever they are the only ways to rebuild it. Remember that when the dust has settled. Story 58, we essentially live in a house of cards. We are all financially fragile. Almost every job treats people poorly, and one bad paycheck can mean homelessness, hunger, or losing healthcare if you are lucky enough to have it. Government assistance is becoming harder to obtain. Most people I know have large debts hanging over them, usually student loans. It is a nightmare to be here. Story 59. My brother is deaf. He's worked his ass off his whole life. His company closed because of the economy, and he has been looking everywhere in his small town, McDonald's, Uber, you name it. He doesn't care what the job is. He just has to work. This week people started asking him if he is deaf, which they never asked before, and someone even said the president said we don't have to hire deaf people now, so we won't. What on earth? He cannot get disability benefits, and now people can openly be that opposed to hiring someone with a disability. Before people criticize me, he has not applied for jobs where his deafness could be a safety issue. Story 60. As an American who did not ask for any of what is happening in the United States today, my biggest concern is the kind of future that will exist for my son. I could not care less if I go to bed hungry every night working for an evil healthcare corporation, as long as he is happy, healthy, fed, and has the future he deserves. Story 61. How our country has been hijacked by the funkiest of ghouls. Also, a South African tech entrepreneur bought his way into our government, stole vast amounts of money and information via Dogecoin, and used the White House as a backdrop to sell Teslas. What a fucking time, am I right? Story 62. Russian-style elections. Trump certainly marketed this effectively. He falsely claimed that elections were rigged to portray his opponents as guilty. Now, when elections are actually rigged and his opponents cry foul, the narrative is already set up to discount everything. Story 63. Absolutely, most high-level white-collar jobs, such as physicians and lawyers, will be 100% automated by artificial intelligence. This is happening now at a scale that is so fast and vast that many people cannot keep up with the updates. Story 64. My job just fired 8 people at the end of the workday on Wednesday. There was no warning. They walked out of the company 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. Story 65. Living under a regime led by an absolute incompetent and surrounded by sycophants who will not lift a finger is intolerable. The economic roulette we face is 100% self-imposed, yet no one calls it out. The Federal Reserve is even lowering interest rates instead of calling out the tariffs as the sole factor holding the economy and job growth hostage. Everyone else uses artificial intelligence as a cover story for lack of hiring and continued layoffs, but the real cause is macroeconomic uncertainty. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.